All right, we're back here for part 2. Basically the same tables as we had in part 1. I'll switch these around at least so we have top 2 are currently 2-5 and the bottom 2 are 1-2. Again, just fold here these positions with queen 10 suited. And this player bet multi on the turn, so I don't think we can value bet this hand. I have a feeling this three-handed game is also going to break. Maybe I can replace it with this table. And maybe this one won't break. I'm actually gonna fold here. Sam just plays really bad multi-way, even in the looser range spots. I think it's super close though. Say that a lot playing poker. Every spot is super close. Okay. It's not amazing, but even without a diamond, I'm going to call here. Just have a pair. It interacts well enough on some turns, but versus this, we fold. Unfortunately, it looks like this table is also going to break. So I will do my best to replace this. All right, pretty good river. I think we will definitely have an advantage in like ace, king, ace, queen. But my opponent will have an advantage. Sorry, and we'll both have king, jack. I'm just going to bet this size. It's fine. Like, I also have the ace of spades, which isn't actually great. I want my opponent to have like ace of spades. It'll increase the frequency at which he rivers an ace. So I guess I'll play a little bit of heads up until I find a fourth table. Maybe someone just joins this table and helps us out. But in the meantime, just play against this guy for now. This hand this time. Quite a good board for the in-position player. Heads up. So, in this hand, makes a pretty reasonable bet. Can barrel reasonably often, deny equity to just random undercard hands. So this turn, we're going to want to be pretty selective with our bets. This hand, I don't think has the best properties to barrel the turn. You definitely want to bet some of these weak king highs. But on this turn, I think I'm going to really favor just the lowest ones. Because our bet frequency just drops quite a lot on this turn. And then I should just show this hand down. He shouldn't bluff all his queen highs here. So I have pot share versus queen X. And there you go. It's nice when it when the exact thing you say happens, but yeah, it's nice to that it actually worked out as we drew it up. Obviously, that's one of the best case scenarios. And I think his hand's fine. Like, he has weaker hands to bluff with. I think queen 8 is like probably around the type of hand that wants to consider bluffing though. But also makes sense to check. You just like should at least chop, or you don't generally generate a ton of folds for better. Similarly here, it's kind of the same thing we just talked about in the last hand. All right, hopefully this player stays and we can play what this video is meant to be, which is 6 max. Yeah, you don't really want to bluff as much with the strong. We'll call this a strong king high because it is reasonably strong. On the left, I'm gonna stab this hand sometimes, not this time. And I think this hand just wants to show down. Again, I don't expect to win that often, but I think I could chop versus king jack and some king nine. And same thing here. I think I'll chop reasonably often versus king high, but I won't get him to fold the better hand anyways. Obviously not that hand. I think I said like king nine, and he is king nine. So we're getting pretty fortunate with the calling our opponent's hand. So this board is pretty good for the small blind, but doesn't necessarily need to. I mean, it's not necessarily a range bet. If it was like jack 10, 5, range bet becomes a lot better. Anyways, so check call here with the ace 8. Depending on my opponent's sizing, I'll have a decision on the turn. This is somewhat small of a squeeze. I'm going to call it versus half pot. I'm going to defend the ace 8. And probably lose. This on the left is going to be reasonably high frequency stab here. One check 2. I'm only going to play a small bet when I do stab. And we win the pot, which is nice. And we win the pot here, which is nice. Unfortunately, obviously, if you look at this run out, the hand you're thinking of is king queen. Unfortunately, I didn't call it that time. So you guys will never believe me. Could have went for 3 for 3 if I just said what was in my head. Don't think there's a huge difference here. You play b40, b30. As this card gets a bit higher, the big bet strategy starts to make more sense. So if it's like jack 8, deuce flush draw, jack 9, deuce flush draw, you can definitely play some big bets. This hand I'm going to bet and just fold versus raise. Jack 8, deuce, you could definitely, you could play you could play a big bet on almost any flop. Almost any. There's some that would be maybe a bit interesting. But especially those like small differences. So there's a small bet here versus a short stack recreational player. My hand's good enough that if he's flopped an ace, so be it. But I get called by worse, get value, and I can always stack off here if I need to. Just call, keep in his bluffs, turn a flush, which is nice. And he shoves, so we definitely call. And he has 2 pair. Top right, we also turn a flush. Again, he wants to run it twice. Why not? Unfortunately, the board pairs, but not his card for him. So we win a small pot. He's betting reasonably large, so I'm just going to call again. We have to be pretty selective with our turn raise here, just because we never have a boat. We don't have a straight flush. He obviously can't have a straight flush because we block it. But yeah, he can have ace king, ace jack, block kings. We can't have any of those hands. We got some ace 9. I'm just going to call down. Kept in his bluff. I can't do much else. And I'm just going to fold this time with ace 4. This hand is going to do all 3. Jam, call. It's going to be, usually call or jam. Good. double Broadway, disconnected board. These boards are going to be very good for the in-position player. That is one of the worst turns in the deck for our hand. All right, here my opponent is going to lack enough 4x for me to do too much checking with this hand. So just barrel. I don't block ace 4, so it'd obviously be even better. Okay. This is a weird one. And call top right. 3 pair. I think I'm just gonna go for a small bet here. And I will obviously call if he jams. Like, I lose to quads. It's hard to have quads. I lose to quads, and if he got really loose pre-flop with 3-5 of spades. Chop it up. Gonna 3-bet here with the queen unsuited. And flop a flush. This has been a lot of flushes in a row. So this board, you can do, you can do whatever you want again. Some different strategy you'll see pretty commonly are super high frequency small bet. If not, you want to do a reasonable amount of checking because a lot of our flushes are ace high. So on a board like this, I don't have 3s or 6s. I can have some 6s from the small blind. But we're definitely going to lack some flushes on this board. So that's going to lead you to do a reasonable amount of flop checking. I'm just going to bet here with the kings of the club. And we're going to check call here. Sometimes check raise, sometimes check call. Don't think there's a ton of reason to bluff this hand on the turn. Basically, I'll just get him to fold a queen and then call an ace or better. So even though I probably have some fold equity, that this is very odd for my opponent. My plan was mainly to check call down, but this sizing is like not really a thing. So it leads me to want to check raise. So I'm going for check raise. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what maybe just bluffing. So he's trying to keep my range weak. And I'm just going to bet the river because I have the nuts. I mean, this last stretch, unfortunately, I'm playing 2-5 and 1-2 because I've made the nuts every hand. I should have been playing 10-20 and 25-50. So I'm just checking. It's it's not possible. I mean, it's basically impossible for me to not have the nuts here with the pocket kings. Value bet bottom right versus a very wide range. I have the best draw and the best hand usually. And now we even more likely to have the best hand. Don't need protection. Can't go for 3 streets. I mean, that's not. I could make some ridiculous sizing scheme and go for 3 streets versus player type. But then I have to weigh that with the benefits of checking and letting him bluff when he just has we'll try and get it ready. And he has king 6 of hearts. Well, he doesn't have king 6 of hearts, I don't think. But he could have 10 6 of hearts. So let's hope it's that one. So I think my opponent's range is relatively weak. I wouldn't take this size normally, but I'm going to try and induce some light action here. I was close. The 10 was correct. But unfortunately, didn't have 10 6 hearts. And obviously, if I know he's river to 10, I'd actually probably want to bet bigger because I think he's at the speed at which he called that bet, he might not have even known how much he was calling. Queen 5 is going to be just a bit too weak. Oh, I was thinking, okay, I have another 2-5 table, or sorry, I have another 1-2 table. So now we're 3 1-2 tables and 1-2-5. That's just the games that are available to us right now. I am on the wait list for another 2-5. Unfortunately, this 2-5 might now break. This is, the struggles you sometimes deal with as a cash game player. So we face a reasonably small 3-bet. And we have pocket 7s. We're going to call, play in position. I was going to say try and flop a 7, but I wasn't trying to rely on that. We do flop a 7, and now good things can happen. Potentially the best thing that could happen is turn 7, river queen, and my opponent has pocket queens. Now, when he bets half pot, I'm going to say it's a little less likely he's flop top set. But, everyone has their own strategy. Maybe he knows we have pocket 7s. He's trying to build the pot early. My opponent goes like really big here. Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat incentivized to just shove here. It's like the river. There's a bunch of rivers I might not get paid on. But I'm just like, I think I'm just going to call. I think against a lot of regulars, I'd want to shove here because I'm going to want to shove some like turned combo draws. This would be one of the worst rivers in the deck. And this is why you definitely want to shove the turn sometimes. Wow, this is absurd. We just made another flush. Okay, so when my opponent bets flop checks turn, his range can be very capped here. We were right. I mean, he actually did flop top set, but unfortunately, it was not the run that we wanted. Anyways, so I think my opponent's like usually be very capped here. So we're gonna go for a 3x spot over bet. The best bluffs here are just gonna be like like queen jack with a spade, king jack with a spade. And we get called by pocket jacks with a spade. Potentially he doesn't want to have that card. I understand he blocks a flush, but he also, I mean, again, I have so many potential bluffs there. Having a spade is probably still better than not having a spade. But when I was just talking about having the jack of spades, obviously makes it seem worse. So queen 10-5 rainbow, start with a bet. Pretty small raise. And I have, I'm going to fold a lot here, but I think this hand makes a reasonable defend. I don't think this is like gonna work that well. Yeah, I guess snap. Never mind, it's gonna work amazing. I was gonna say I don't want to bluff here because I have so many missed draws. But I thought he would at least consider folding some of his pairs that bluffed on. Like, I have tons of value as well, right? But he decided he thought I was in the bluffing camp, so that worked about as well as it could. But yeah, if only I just said I was value betting, then it looks even better. Double suit, I'm gonna raise this hand. As in, like, I have the queen of hearts and the 10 of diamonds. You want to raise those hands a bit more. And then on the turn, you're gonna want to mix this hand into both. So I'm gonna check this time. Mainly I'm gonna bluff here when I have like a heart. And same idea here. This hand's going to want to go into both check call and check raise. And this time we get check call. And we river showdown. And a hand that could potentially bluff. I'm going to showdown here versus if he has these floats, then obviously we at least chop for some ace size. Yeah, I'm gonna check and sometimes win. Unfortunately, not that time. And obviously, against this hand, turn check raise would have been quite good. That king jack hand was like, I expected to get hero call to reasonably light. I didn't even love bluffing my hand. It's one I have to look at. Like, my hand's like pretty marginal on flop anyways. I would never bluff like ace jack, ace king type hands. And I wouldn't even bluff like my stronger ace eyes. Not that there's like a huge difference between them. I just think like from, you know, frequency standpoint, it's just like I'm just going to use some of my like ace 3 type hands just in case like he's ever raising ace jack. Now, obviously that would not have worked there because he called king jack, so I would assume he's always calling ace jack. I'm going to make a just squeeze fold here with ace queen off. Rather quick and rather large 4-bet from a player I don't recall being particularly aggressive pre-flop. Start with a bet here. And fold the king 3 suited. This is a looser open, but I think it's okay into that big blind. Okay, as before, I'm going to value bet this hand on flop. Ace deuce. I know this opponent's probably not going to fold anything on this board. Okay. I think I'm just going to shove. I'm ahead of all his draws. I don't know if he raises a 4 here. And my hand doesn't like... My hand's okay if it's behind and dominates his draws. So. But, I mean, I still have 17% against that hand, so could be worse. It's a good start. And I'm just going to, I don't know if I want to play like overbet here. But I'm just going to bet this size. Top left, defend a 3-bet, call a C-bet. Call here. Try and play pot versus the small blind. I'm not going to turn this hand into a bluff on this turn. And I think this is... So I block 7-6. Pocket 7s. I think this is a reasonable raise sometimes. That's just whether I want to play jams or just... I'm gonna go for jam. I think like he has so few 6x that if I have pocket 5s, I can definitely jam. But unfortunately, he has 2 6s, so he is not folding that hand. I just think I have like a reasonable, like if I'm going to bluff that river, which I definitely think I want to, my hand is a reasonable candidate because he's obviously going to call if he has a 6. He doesn't have much 6x to begin with. It's like pocket 6s and 7-6. So having 2 7s, sorry, having a 7 is good. I'm not going to bluff with pocket 7s, so I can't have 2 7s. So having a 7 is good. Maybe, again, I don't know everyone's ranges. Maybe sometimes he goes for a 3-bet pre-flop with 8-6 suited too, right? So if that's the case, then having an 8 is also good. I unblock all of his pairs that he could be blocking to fold, like ace, king, if he has an outline, king, queen, king, jack, queens, jacks. So I think it's fine. When you get called by 6s, it doesn't really matter because like I'm expecting never get a fold out of 6s. But it's whether or not I'm gonna check here. I think this hand goes in both lines, but this time I'm gonna check. Top left, I went for a bet check. Bet. And bottom right, I'm going to be calling versus most sizings. Definitely, I don't think I can raise here, so just call. Seems okay. Yeah, he's like the best jack. Yeah, seems fine. Yeah, so I'm okay with. It's more of an issue if I call with like pocket jacks, or he snap calls me with like king jack or king queen or something, right? Then I have like a scenario where my opponent might think I'm over bluffing, but I think it's pretty believable for me to have value in that line. I think like especially for people moving up, newer poker players, or people maybe you've played a lot of poker but you're just starting to take it more seriously, to not get discouraged from hands like that where you have a decision, you go for a bluff, and then you get called by a hand that you knew your opponent could have sometimes that would never fold. Then like as long as you're calibrated with the rest of your thought process, so as long as your thought process was, my opponent doesn't have much 6x, he will have hands like pocket 6s and 7-6, that's about it, those hands will always call me. If he was like trapping turn with like pocket kings and bets, he'll probably always call that hand as well. Those hands I expect always to get called by. Now if that's the extent of his value betting range and he doesn't have the other hands, if he's never value betting a king, if he's never value betting pocket queens for that size, I'm going to bet small this time. We've seen this opponent likes to call quite wide, so any value bet goes up. A flush obviously is going to value bet or check raise. Sorry, yeah. So it shouldn't discourage you when you get called by the hands you knew your opponent could have that would never fold. The only thing you want to like analyze is, was I correct in my assumption that he's value betting a bunch of other hands for that size that would have folded? And I think that's still the case. I think he's going to value bet worse than a 6. We saw that in that size, he had a straight, so it's probably the only size he's using on that run out. I don't think his range would really be able to justify using more than one size there. So in that small size is going to be the very occasional straight, some sets, and then a bunch of single pair hands. And yeah, like I said, I think I can get a bunch of those to fold. And I think I would rather use my hand than I would never want to bluff that river with like pocket 10s, right? I just have like only bad blockers. So I definitely have like pocket queens or pocket jacks, because then not only do I block my opponent's like highest frequency bluffs, but I also block pocket queens, pocket jacks, king jack, king queen. So those are the hands I'm hoping he has, because those hands are not going to snap at all. But yeah, that's part of just, if you never make uncomfortable decisions or decisions you almost regret afterwards, then you're probably not challenging your growth enough. But that being said, I think pretty reasonable spot to call it. If you guys enjoyed the content, as I said before, make sure to follow the channel, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, all that jazz, and we'll be back soon. All right, take care.